Correct.
I'm your first one just sitting here.
Heck yeah, it makes it easy to know how to put it.
the agenda, just, maybe I'm wrong. All right, I'll call this meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 6 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all members present except Trustee Pieper, who we should be expecting shortly. With that, we will move on to citizen input. Please come up to the podium and present a yellow card to the clerk prior to coming to speak. And please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Is there anyone here that's wishing to talk for citizen input?
Oh.
Okay, good evening, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I just have two questions, and I don't remember this. I know it's been discussed a couple of times, but at one point, the library fund was going to get called out separately as a budget item within the general fund, and I was just wondering if that has occurred yet, if I'm misremembering that it was a future thing, and if it is, what is the account number? So that's the library question. And then I noticed that on the village board meeting, there is an item called the Heritage Place Settlement. And the question regarding that, apart from whatever the circumstances are, is where is that money going to come out of? So those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to come forward?
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. In terms of the last committee meeting, the motion had failed for the EDWC contract. And then, as you know, it was brought to the village board agenda. And your decision was overturned, but the motion included bringing that contract back to this committee for discussion. I do not see it on tonight's agenda.
It is not, and to clarify, we had already approved it in the budget, and it began January 1. So that was just to basically a bookkeeping thing to approve the funds for this year.
I understand that, but Mr. Baum's motion is to bring the contract back to the committee.
And
for
it will.
review. And there was a comment made, I don't know if it was at this meeting or at the village board meeting, but it was said, well, it's budgeted. Never in this committee did they say anything about, oh, that you missed your opportunity to review the contract and that the funds were already expended. That's concerning. You're supposed to be reviewing contracts. And so then suddenly when it appears on the village board meeting, then that detail comes up saying, oh, it's already, we missed the opportunity to cancel. So I just am concerned about that. And then I see on tonight's agenda for the ARPA funds, $140,000 for completing the Goldendale Trail. I think the cart is before the horse on this, given that you don't have railroad approval. And I don't believe this has been on the Planning Commission for approval. They should be bringing forward something like that to this body to say, we're recommending these funds. And so I encourage you to not approve those tonight. Thanks.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else?
All people mic problems. Scott Effley, W159 N10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. A couple things for GGF. This, as we found out through the agenda process, we need money. We need money for the state kind of hitting us on the chin with expenses we didn't expect for a road project. We also apparently need money to pay off some sort of a settlement for impact fees where we overcharged, which is very unfortunate, very concerning too. So I look at the ARPA things and I see a wish list from the staff of what they want money for, and I'll just briefly go through those. Highway 167, that's not going to be fixed for years. If you're lucky, they'll start it in 29, maybe 30. The state is notoriously bad at starting things on time. That's $125,000 you allocated from ARPA you could use to pay that towards that, from 88,000 to 53, it could make up some of that. We don't have the money in the budget, and we're borrowing a lot. So there's an idea. We have TID dollars already allocated for trail funding out over by Holy Hill, 740,000, I was told. That's a lot of money for a start. Now we have 140,000 for a Golden Dale Trail design. It was mentioned earlier, we don't even have approvals for any of that. I think that Landon Road project is much more important to get that done. If you want to look to reallocate money you've spent. You have the power to recommend that to the board, your trustees. So take the 140 out of that. You got 125 for 167. Now you're at $265,000. We're getting closer to that overage that we were told to eat by the state. And finally, I have no idea. I wish I was a consultant that you pay $100,000 for an impact fee study. I need to get in the consulting business. I obviously am underpaid for what I do because that's a ridiculous amount of money. You could call around and see who's doing what. There's plenty of information. You have resources in the League of Municipalities, all that stuff. So, okay, it's definitely needed to look at it, but I don't think that's a priority. Apparently, we are having problems assessing our own fees that we are charging now in the right way. Otherwise, we wouldn't have an impact fee settlement. So, and how do we know that Heritage is the only place that's been treated unfairly? I don't know that. Maybe you don't know that, but we need to find that out. So you can use that for the Land and State Road project that we're all upset about. And the final thing I'll say is, it was mentioned there's a cost to bail on this project and tell the state to go thumb your nose at them, and there's a penalty. I don't know that it was ever presented what that penalty is, because I'm telling you, if it's not a big amount of money, I'd rather do that than be stuck with $400,000 we don't have. So just if it's punitive, say, well, we'll try to find money for the project, and if we can walk away for several $1,000s or 10 grand, that's a lot cheaper than 463 we don't have. Thank you.
Thanks for coming forward. Is there anyone else here for public comment? All right, if not, we will move on to consent agenda, the minutes from April 15th, 2024.
Move approval of the minutes from April 15th.
I'll second for discussion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there, I guess there is.
Yes. Thanks. For the minutes from April 15th, thanks for providing them. I just wanted to make mention, I think that when the minutes are done, because we have such wealth of talented people that, oh, sorry, not on. Okay, let's talk about the minutes. We have a lot of people that are taking the minutes. We're lucky that we have talented people that can take the minutes. And I was wondering if we could just put at the bottom of the minutes or at the top, who is respectfully, submitting the minutes. That would be helpful. So that when we get them, if we have a question, we can just give you a call or send you an email. And as far as item, I put a underline here. The website update coordination. I thought it was important that we just put a line in there that says we established putting together a committee for the website. And all it says is update, plan, and process. Can we add that, please? It's item A. And the other item was item C for the Economic Development Washington County 2024 subscription and discount for unused credits. I was going to mention that at the village board, the contract was supposed to come back here. I thought it would be on this month's but perhaps we can get it on next month. Those are my comments.
All right. There are a number of things that are required on the minutes, and then there's nice to haves, if I understand right, and maybe you can clarify that, village clerk.
That is correct. While it is not necessarily a requirement to put respectfully by, it is just a nicety to have. As it relates to the item of wanting to, for the motion for portion A of the ones that you've lined out, then the motion would need to be, because the motion was to approve by trustee Kaminsky and second by you for discussion. And now we can do we can approve the minutes with the following amendments if we want to do that.
Okay.
But yes, it's not unusual to do the minutes and not have respectfully submitted by. In fact, I would say it's less common.
Oh, okay. All right, I'd like to make a motion to add to item A, website update coordination. A committee will be formed for website update. And item C, that this committee, GGF, will review the subscription for EDWC.
Yeah, that's item C under new business.
New business, pardon me, yes. Thank you.
And I'll second that, and that's an amendment to the original motion.
Okay,
All right,
I'll s-
yeah. I mean, you made an amendment. I'm just clarifying that it's an
Correct.
amendment. So, okay, is there any further discussion? Not, we'll vote on the amendment to the original motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Back to the original motion of the approval of the minutes. Minutes as amended. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we will move on to unfinished business. Item A, ARPA update, and that we will go to Matthew Uselding, our finance director.
In your packet, excuse me, is the monthly update for the status of the ARPA funds. On the front page or towards the top is a table of projects that were approved either by committee or by the village board. And on the back side or on the lower half of the packet are projects that we had brought before for committee, just trying to get a feel for what the committee would like the village staff to do with those funds. These projects here have not been approved, like no contract has been approved by either the committee or the board. But these are kind of the direction that staff is moving in. If a contract were to come before the committee or board, it would ultimately have to be approved by the committee or board before any fund are expended. As it relates to the Golden Dale Trail, just to talk about some of the public comments, we did borrow roughly $700,000 being paid for out of TID 7. I believe that was in 2021 for a Golden Dale Trail. The funds here are kind of to get the design of that trail and begin that process, since we are sitting on those funds. And at some point, now it's been 2 years, we're going to start expending those funds. As it relates to Highway 167, that project was approved back in 2023, and those are funds that we are using for that project. We will either have to use ARPA funds as allocated here, or we would have to use general fund funds to pay for that project. We are in an agreement with the state to fund that project. So we've allocated $125,000 out of ARPA funds rather than use the general fund to cover those expenses.
Can you comment on the impact study, why that's $100,000?
That is just a rough estimate we have. Obviously, any contract,
Go out for RFP.
we're going out for RFP. That'll be on the agenda tonight, where we'll get proposals from contractors who will, ultimately decide what they think the cost of such a study should be. That's just our rough estimate. Could be higher, could be lower. We just want to set aside some funds to be used.
So the, I'll start with the Landon Road 167 exchange, interchange.
Mhm.
This came up in Public Works, and we talked about it in discussion there, but back last year, we knew that the project was going to be an additional 210,000 over the 80,000 that we expected. I think most of us forgot that, but that was approved through the village board to use $209,409 of the ARPA funds in order to fund that. Since then, we've reallocated some of that money for that. So I guess it's up to us to start the ball if you want to move some of that money back to that project.
I thought we borrowed for that, no?
We did borrow for it as well
Yeah. So
because we
no
didn't
point moving it now.
think the funds were there.
Mm-hmm.
So the funds are funding, obviously, they're funding other projects that are necessary in the village. Right now, we do have, as Matthew alluded to, we have 445,600 quote unallocated and recommended for those 4 different items right now. So that's where we're at.
I have some questions. Matt?
Sure, go ahead.
Matt, okay, the impact fee study, that was already asked. The Golden Dale, design of the Golden Dale Trail, since we had 700,000 for this, and it is, I would think that the trail study should come out of those funds in that TID because it belongs to the TID. That's my personal opinion. And I don't think we should be using ARPA funds for that. I think we have some more immediate needs. The refresh my memory, this doesn't mean what it actually is. It says interim market update, and that was allocated on 1/22/24. What is it really? It's on the front page.
That's the assessment update.
Yep, that was the interim market update that the assessor is currently doing.
The
for
assessors.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. The assessors. Okay, that's good. And we got the Altbauer Division Road. And my, I think that we should really, really, really get these. If in fact this Highway 167, that's the state, if that's not going to be done till 2028, I don't think we should, put, I mean, there's some allocation being done there.
So I believe these are 2 different projects. There's the Maple Landing project, and then there's the Highway 167 project. The Maple Landing is the one we originally allocated $80,000 to out of ARPA to cover our costs. That is the one that has gone up in the meantime.
Substantially. Okay.
Correct. The
So-
Highway 167 is a completely different
Yeah,
project.
that's a little confusing because that is
It's got
Highway
a box.
167 there.
Right.
And
The
it
box
looks
does
like-
make it confusing. What I tried to do with that box is kind of put road projects there together. But I can certainly get rid of the box to unconfuse.
So I can't remember, what's the Highway 167 project? Steve? I'm sure I'll remember as soon as you tell me.
This is
The 167 project is actually a repaving of Mequon Road, Lannon, from the highway to, if I remember correctly, to Pilgrim Road. And it's scheduled for construction in 2028, but we are committed to design. There was an agreement that was before the village board last year, and design does start in this year. So in 2024, there's design, but construction will be in 2028. So for cash flow purposes, we do need some of that money in this upcoming year.
All right, thank you.
Isn't the design the 125,000?
It's probably not enough.
Like these other projects, what we have is an estimate from DOT. They won't know until they go out to bid. But I think $125,000 should cover the expense. I believe that when they, and I'm going off of my memory here, which is always a little bit dangerous, but I believe that when they gave us the estimates on the original agreement, the initial design component, the village share would have been $80,000. But it could be higher than that, it could be lower than that, depending upon how bids come in. And then there are additional contributions that we'll have to make in future years.
Did you say the design is this year, 2024?
I believe it starts in 2024, goes into 2025.
And these funds have to be allocated this year, not spent this year? ARPA funds.
But they have to be allocated in the sense that a contract has to be approved,
Okay,
dedicating these funds.
I see.
Yeah,
The
contract.
contract has to be in place.
Contract has to be in place and, and work on the contract has to start within, the federal term is within a reasonable time period. So for that type of a contract with, I'd say within the first 6 months of
Mhm.
2025, work would have to begin. And the work can be, design is included in that work.
Boy, we're,
So really, both of these projects, these road projects, Maple Lannon and Highway 167, are probably 2028.
Construction.
Maple
will-
Lannon is this year.
Yeah, Maple
This year.
Lannon is this year. Construction on the repaving of 167 is.
It's gonna be
scheduled for 2028.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
It's just an update. However, you can make a motion to recommend any of the 4 items that have not been allocated yet or any of the funds. If you want to.
Okay.
Question on that. We've gone through this like 10,000 times
Mhm.
and we've narrowed it down to these 4 items that we want done.
Okay.
And aren't we just waiting for contracts to come in on these, or are we just playing this game where we're going to bring it up every month, every month, every month?
What I try to do is at least show changes, of this
Mhm.
fund spent on the first
Yeah.
page, those change.
Which makes sense. But
On the backside, those projects haven't changed.
they haven't changed in a long time and we
They've
all.
changed, but they
discussed
really
that.
haven't been approved yet, right?
Okay.
Right,
Through
no-
through the
no-
village board.
No
Correct.
contract.
I would expect,
Right.
if the committee approves the
Yeah.
impact fee RFP,
And-
and I believe there's a PD building design coming to public safety in the near future. If those contracts are approved, then those funds would shift to the front table.
Yeah, I mean,
This would still have to go to the village board, but we get first crack at it and
Yeah.
can recommend whatever.
I feel like it's about the
So-
3rd crack and I agree with all 4 of these.
Oh. Well, I was going to, I think the Golden Dale Trail is the least urgent of all of these items on this back page list. And we have debt coming up here on the, what is it called? Our settlement. And
Well, settlement can't be touched with these funds.
no,
Use our
no.
paper.
You have to get it out of the impact fees and that's the only place it can come from.
all of it,
All of it. Yep.
all of it.
They paid into the impact fees. It's got to
Gotta
come back
come
out of
out.
the impact fees.
Okay. I still think it could be used for, I think any of these could, that's why it comes up every month. If there's something else that's better, we can use it, or urgent.
I think we should just send it to the village board because the board's going to decide. I mean,
We'll have the discussion there. So
I do have a question about the Golden Dale though. Why did we separate out the design funds from the actual construction? I know there's a good reason for it. I think I just forgot it because we've talked about this a lot too, like over a year ago.
construction would be in the TIF.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can talk a little bit about Golden Dale and kind of give a status update on it and actually maybe answer a couple of the questions that came up during public comment. But just for background, Golden Dale Trail is included in the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan and the trail plan, both of which went through the Plan Commission, the Park and Rec Commission, and the Village Board, and were approved. So this isn't something where staff picked out, hey, it'd be really cool to have a trail there. This has gone through that process, and it is a part of the plan that we're responsible to try to move forward with implementation. There is, as Matthew mentioned, $700,000 in bond proceeds in TID 7. Looking at the trail, it's probably going to cost more than $700,000. We'll also go through some grant application processes and see if we're able to get some DNR grants. I think there's good opportunities for that. But using some of the ARPA money, I think would help us. I would tend to agree. It probably, if you look at these things, is one of the lower priorities on the list. And if there is a higher priority project where ARPA funds could be helpful, this one could get bumped and we could find other ways to address it. But it also is an appropriate and a useful use of ARPA funds. As far as where the project is, engineering has gone through and gotten quotes. They've talked to multiple vendors about who may be able to provide that. We haven't brought a contract forward to the board yet. We've been talking with MMSD and directly with a property owner who would be involved in this route. And there's a couple of different options of where that could go. And we're trying to work through that so that we know what we're designing. We have some more specifics on the design before we move forward with the actual contract for design. So we're getting close to that. And I expect that within the next few months, we'll have that back before the board. But as of today, we have that one step to work through before we finalize the design contract.
And you said you went out, they're going out for grants as well.
Yes.
So that's also an opportunity for reducing the cost.
Yeah, yes.
What does everybody need from us
I
tonight?
would say,
Just review.
Nothing?
okay, well, we'll move on then. But I agree, we probably should just move this to the village board and finalize it there. With that, we'll move on to item B, 2023 audit and Public Service Commission report process and timeline.
So this year, for the first time in a couple of years, the village was able to submit the PSC report and the municipal financial report without requesting an extension either from the state or the PSC. That was made due to a lot of work done in the engineering department as well as the finance department in consultation with Baker Tilly. We were able to get that submitted by its original due date. As it states in the memo, Baker Tilly is expected to be on site for field work beginning the week of June 24th. That was the earliest we could get them in after bumping them in April. After speaking with Baker Tilly, there is some opportunity for some earlier work to be done in the beginning of June as time permits. Village staff should have all of the information to Baker Tilly by the end of May, so that gives them an opportunity if time permits for them to begin working on that. At the bottom, I still highlighted some key dates and targets for us. We are going to request an extension for the GFOA award. Typically, it's due by the end of June, but we are able to submit an extension request. And once we hear back from them, I can update the committee on that.
All right, and the anticipated surplus 667 is really not cash. It's more in investments and
Correct. It's a
long-term
combination
things.
of actual interest earnings as well as unrealized gains on investments. If you recall, the last couple of years, we've had unrealized losses.
Right.
In 2023, we had an unrealized gain just based on the market conditions.
recouping some of our losses from a year ago.
Correct.
All right, committee. Questions, comments?
It would be, what did you say the amount was?
It's on there, 667,818.
Where does this surplus show up? Lower.
This is the general fund surplus. Correct.
And have lots of line items in the general fund.
Correct. If you look, there is a revenue line for unrealized, I don't know if it's called unrealized gains / losses, but there is a revenue line in the general fund that's either, a positive number or a negative number at the end of the year, depending on if it's a positive or negative unrealized gain or loss.
Okay, can you send that to me? The account number?
The account number? Yep, I certainly can.
All right, anything else? Thanks, Matthew.
Welcome.
With that, we'll move on to new business, employee benefits broker contract. Had a same broker for quite a while, so.
Yes, so back in the beginning of February, we put an RFP together, which we brought in front of this committee, and then sent out. After going through all of that, we received 3 proposals, one from R&R Insurance, one from USI, and one from Cottingham and Butler. The Wellness Committee then went forward and reviewed those proposals, got together as a team on multiple occasions to discuss which one we would like to go with. We also did interviews for 2 of the 3 proposals. And after going through all of that, we decided upon to recommend USI. So before we were with R&R Insurance. However, we were paying them through commission, which is where we pick benefits and then they pay the brokers instead of us paying the brokers at a flat rate. Now I did a survey. I sent it out to 52 communities. Only about 6 responded. However, out of those 6, 75% of them were self-funded and also had and paid through flat fee. So that's my recommendation, is to go with USI. We would only have to pay a flat fee instead of commission. If you look at the cost comparisons on the memo that I sent out, they are the more expensive one. However, they also don't include, the other 2 include additional fees for different services, whereas USI does not. It's just one base flat fee every
So
year.
it looks like they're the high amount here, but R&R, you really have to add the 25,000 in addition to what their standard fee is. Is that right? So they were around $50,000.
Well, no, because they were commission only, but now they're going to commission plus additional fees.
I
Or
see.
not commission plus, so they're going
Base.
to a mix where it's a flat, like, not a flat fee, but a fee-based approach.
Like a retainer type and then,
Yep,
Yep.
with commission on top of that, which right now they were just doing commission only. But with their proposal for going forward, it was both. So it was commission plus a fee. So their
So what
fee was going to be 25,650.
so that was
for
the fee
20
plus commission after that.
No, originally, because right now, so for the last 30 years, they've been commission only. So
Mhm.
the cost that I have in here, that was just over 25,000 was just the commission that we paid. However, with their new proposal and to be competitive with other organizations, they suggested a fee plus commission on any additional benefits that we occurred.
So how much would that be? How do we understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comparatively, I have no way of understanding this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be hard, right?
Well,
Because
we have
that's
to, though.
all, but that can change every year. So I mean, it's.
How do we know USI at 35,000 is the best?
Because the Wellness Committee got together and we reviewed the proposals in great detail. And
I appreciate that,
interviewed-
but then what was R&R charging though, ultimately, or C and B? Is it actually, am I comparing 35,000 to 25,650? I'm hearing no. I'm comparing 35,000 to 25,650 plus, and we don't know what that X is. What is the plus what? And that's what we would need to know, I think, to do a fair comparison. To
Right.
know that this is the correct decision.
If there's a base cost for R&R and maybe C and B, then let's just say an example, 10,000, and then
This is their base cost. So the 25,650 would be R&R's base cost.
Okay.
If there were any additional services that we wanted from them or any additional benefits that we accrued, they would take commission off of those benefits and then the services would be charged. Okay. So at this moment, I can't say whether there would or would not be either of those.
So,
But their base cost would be the 25,650, where regardless of what I ask, USI's would be 35,000. Regardless of
So-
what we had them do or what additional benefits we gained or lost, it would not change.
all right, so we have data from R&R. So are you saying from the past years that we've done business with them? Is that correct? Have we done business with them?
Yeah.
Yes,
they're-
what
So-
data though? I mean, we have a lot of data, but not that's related to the contract. So
Correct.
The contract, we don't actually have a contract with R&R Insurance. We've been with them.
But
for-
you know what we paid for the last 5 years.
Well, I know what we paid last year. Yeah.
Okay, what was that?
That was the $25,074.50 that I have on the first
That's
page.
2025. Okay. What, so, but don't we package, like, don't we always get certain services or does it change every year? That they would have to broker out.
No, we've just been using them as the broker and we've been using them for the basic brokerage.
I'm so confused.
I,
Who's more confused than me?
me,
I'm trying to put it together because like I have the same similar questions. So R&R would be charging us 25,650 next year. But there will be, or there could be additional commission on that.
Correct.
Could be.
Correct. Yep. I actually
Okay.
took the lines exactly from the proposal that they submitted and put them in this memo so that
And Cottingham and Butler, that one, 30,000, but that just replaces a stop loss. So that means that any other things that we get from them would be commissionable.
right.
Okay, so that one's out. I mean, that's gonna be higher than 5,000 difference.
What is the commission? I mean, like, let's say we have the 25,650 from R&R
Mhm.
and anything that they have to do above and beyond, which I assume you would approve, right?
Yes.
You'd say, yes, you can do this. And they'd come back and say, but now I have to charge you a commission on doing that.
Right.
And we have no idea what that commission would be at this point?
We don't know because we don't know what services these are for services that we haven't even requested yet at this point.
Give me an example of what you might request that's already covered by USI.
So there's a number of different things that USI can help us with to better our benefits and make sure that we're saving and not spending. I do have Jacob here to give some information about USI if you would like to ask him specifically about things that USI has to offer. I did
We can do that, but yeah, I'd like to hear from our administrator since he's at the
I am
podium.
Oh, thanks, and I can maybe provide a little bit of the background on R&R and that situation and how they were paid, and I appreciate I understand the confusion. Actually, the village didn't have a contract in place with R&R necessarily in the past. The way that they were reimbursed historically is we would go through an annual process where we would acquire stop loss insurance. They would be our broker in that process. We would acquire third-party administrators,
Yep.
and they would collect a commission on those contracts, not from the village. So we didn't write out checks to R&R Insurance. They received their checks from other parties. Their compensation for the work came from other parties that were involved in the process. So historically, there was never even a contract in place between the village of Germantown and R&R. We have been moving away from that recently. And I think that one of the things that the committee that reviewed these looked at was the transparency in what the costs were for USI versus R&R. That the committee, from my conversations with them, had difficulty answering some of the questions that you're asking right now, is what would they have to pay for in addition to that base fee from R&R, and what would those expenses be? And there have been some things that have come up in the past that have been kind of off the radar at the beginning of the year. A few years ago, when we had some very large cases that went through, and we needed to revise and review our stop loss insurance and look at how we were purchasing that, what the dollar amounts were, and how we were, or where we received that from. That is something that would be covered under USI. I'm not 100% sure to what level that would be covered under R&R, or whether they would seek to be reimbursed through that for that work from commissions on the stop loss insurance carriers would pay, or whether they would send an additional bill to the village. Another example would be our wellness program, where if we needed to make some major changes or some redesign of our plan design for our employees, well, we do that every few years. The committee asks sometimes, well, are our co-pays for our employees, how are they? Are they competitive? So that's part of plan design.
We
And
set that at the beginning of the year, right?
you would be setting this contract would be the advisor who
25,
would
yeah.
work to set those rates for 2025. So those are set for this year, but this contract would bring on a benefits consultant who would help us to set those for 2025. And, you know, those depending upon what types of plan design questions that the committee and the board might have, might define the type of work that has to be done.
So if I'm trying to understand this, USIN, we have a representative here. Fixed cost, we know what the cost is, period, versus a fee plus a variable that we don't know.
Correct.
It could be better, could be worse.
Could be better, or it could be worse. Well, let me try one more thing, and then I'll step out here. But you know, one of the things to keep in mind, and what's on about the village, as opposed to a lot of like small businesses, for example, we're a self-funded
Yes.
employee healthcare plan.
Right.
So you know, if you're running a small business, you might go out for an RFP every year, every few years, where you get a premium that you're paying. For us, because we're self-funded, which we believe saves us money in the long run, but there's a lot more, it's a lot more complicated than that. We're in essence, our benefits consultant is kind of acting and providing us the information that a fully insured plan would be
Insurance
doing that
company would-
on their own.
Yeah.
That insurance
Okay.
company would give you. So that's part of what we're getting from that. So it's a different kind of animal than what a small business might see, or even a mid-sized business that's using a fully insured product. So
Is this the fees for just healthcare, or is this all benefits?
It's all benefits. It's to
All benefits included.
oversee all benefits
Overseeing all?
Yeah. and help in the enrollment process and everything like that. So
unless there's
So-
questions for me, I'll step
So,
back.
so didn't we just have a presentation from
R&R?
R&R?
yeah, they were giving
had-
the 2023 presentation.
That was
It
the
was good,
review
and there was
of last.
That was their review.
Review,
They do that
okay.
we have them
We
do
had
that every year.
savings.
Mhm.
Over 100,000.
These fees are paid out of the healthcare fund, right?
Correct.
So it's a self-funded plan by the village and of course contributory by the employees.
Yes.
Okay. Sure, come on up.
This can be showing up on.
This is Jacob Syndergaard. He's the employee benefit consultant that, if approved, would be representing the village.
So thank you first off for having me here. My name is Jacob Syndergaard. I'm from the team at USI. I'm on our public sector employee benefits, and I help steward that team. So I was involved in writing the RFP, which was included, and responding to the RFP, excuse me, and then also was involved through the wellness committee in those discussions as well. So to answer your question about kind of transparency and how we design our contracts. So in the consulting space, typically we get kind of what's standard is a lot of organizations get paid commission. They'll set a flat retainer fee agreement. They'll get paid commission off lines like the dental insurance, for example, or the vision insurance. And that's what can add on to that ultimate fee. But that creates a conflict of interest, right? Like there's programs available through the state that are not tied to the current dental insurance program where we might recommend that program because we're working net of commission across all lines where other brokerages would not. And I think specific to kind of going through this process, it wasn't just the fee, I don't think was the only decision point. Educating on some of the current benefits that the village offers to employees. Like for example, the disability insurance program, where we were kind of stewarding that in the market and getting that introduced. It's the program that the village currently takes advantage of. We have open enrollment and new hire support programs for all of the benefits, excuse me, that the village currently offers. So I think those were combined in the decision as well. So it wasn't just the fee arrangement. So I work specifically with self-funded employers. Every one of the employers I consult with, we work on flat consulting fee arrangements. To give you an example of some of the other services we offer, in discussions and kind of reviewing the program, there's programs that haven't been presented to the village that have been presented to some of your peer municipalities in the area from a proactive kind of cost containment strategy standpoint. Benchmarking is an example. We had 140 public sector groups participate in our benchmark. We're delivering that data for your team to review that. So those are some examples of programs that would be added on. But again, we're not charging additional fees for these additional services as well. So I hope that provided a little bit of context and to kind of give you some examples. But we prefer to, and I'd say another thing, the village hasn't had a consulting fee agreement in place in the past. We want to have that place, one, so it's transparent. You can vet us like you evaluate an employee working for the village. And then also we have a business associate agreement, which effectively, since we're managing a self-funded plan, we're protecting all the health information, which is something that we'll be adding to the village's program as well.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
any
trustee
questions?
Kaminsky.
So essentially what you're telling me is you act as a fiduciary. You have no external interests where you make any money on the side through referrals or whatever, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly.
But we have worked with R&R in their former capacity, whatever they did, and got money from other
Hmm.
entities, shall we say, and that never bothered us before. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think this decision is going to be made at this committee level tonight because I think this is going to be a village board decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, whatever is decided here has to move on to the village board anyway.
Well, okay, I'm like, don't get it.
And
I mean,
it's
after
not
sitting
that it
through that
hasn't.
presentation, what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? And everybody's saying, wow, this is great, save money, this is super. And here we are, totally confused, like 3 months later. I
But
don't-
just because there's not successes doesn't mean there's things that
That's,
from an administrative point aren't concerning, right? So we did change from a commission-based vision insurance to the state insurance, but it was not because of our benefit broker's suggestion or looking into it to see if they could save us money. It was because I saw that it saved us money and I moved us over to the state. So I'm just saying that there are many benefits to have somebody view it from a non, they're going to make the same money no matter what they propose to us. So they're going to be looking out for our best interest.
the savings last year came mostly because of the usage
Right.
of the
Yeah,
healthcare was down
Right.
by our employees and families.
Right.
Not
Right,
because of
so they-
brokerage fees.
Exactly.
so may I ask one more question?
Sure.
So the total we paid R&R last year was $25,650.
That's the number that I got from UMR Insurance. Yes.
That's what we paid them. Okay.
That's the commission they got through UMR Insurance.
Oh,
Was what we paid them last year.
well,
We didn't pay them, UMR paid them
yeah,
UMR, yeah.
that in commission.
Yeah.
Correct.
and the reason why this is just, I think it's going to be a very valuable all village board discussion is, I mean, I get fiduciary, maybe not in this context as much as you would, Aaron, or as you would. My financial interest, when I see something go up by like basically 50%, I say, wow, that's a lot of money. And so that's why I think it just deserves a more credible discussion and not just with me involved. Yes.
Anybody want to make a motion to move it to the village board?
Question? Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jake, could you tell us about your company, USI?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a full service employee benefits consulting firm.
Where are you out of?
I'm at Kimberly and then Brookfield, our two offices.
Corporate office?
corporate office is New York. That's where our
Yeah, you're
headquartered.
Pretty large company.
Yep, yep.
Okay, and,
State.
and are you a government entity?
No. Government entity, no, being sponsored by the government. We work with entities in the public
Gotcha.
sector space.
You're in the public sector.
Yep, so we work with about 140 public sector groups right now in the state of Wisconsin. And
Are you talking about municipalities?
municipality, counties, then we have some school
Okay.
districts.
Thank
as
you.
well. So, and I think this contract specifically, we don't have to work on a contract. We prefer to work on a contract again, just because it's more transparent. Kind of the way the village has the program currently built out with commissions and whatnot, line items. For example, I think you mentioned that was a fee paid by UMR. Delta Dental administers the dental insurance program, and there's commissions tied to these different insurance programs that are offered through the village. So again, we prefer the transparent fee arrangement, just because it's transparent from our view on both sides. And again, the research you did show most public sector groups do engage in flat fee arrangements now.
Right, anything else? Want to make a motion, recommendation?
In the interest of moving this along, and we have to always make a motion in the positive, I will make the motion to approve the new contract with USI and move it on to the village board.
All right, I'll
Right.
second. Any further discussion?
No.
If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion will go with a negative recommendation to the village board. But it has to be vetted through the village board, and we'll have this discussion all over again.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Which might be helpful when you come to the village board. Take something like that final paragraph where you're talking about why this is better, and talk a little bit more like about the alignment of interests. And there's just certain words that kind of stick out there that I think would really help us a little bit. And I would just, if you want to talk offline, I know what I would want to hear at the village board. And so I would just come very prepared with a presentation about exactly how the committee arrived at this decision and the background again on this company versus the other two as well.
Bullet points. I mean, there are pluses and minuses, and having a contract is definitely a plus. And the reach that you have.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming. Yes,
Miller, could you please repeat the motion, please?
motion was, as it was written, to approve the new contract
Right.
with USI.
Mhm.
Or I'm
Yeah.
sorry, move to the village board with a positive recommendation.
Motion by trustee Kaminsky to move to the village board
And I seconded.
to approve the contract by USI.
And no recommendation failed, but all
Right.
no votes. All three of us said no. It goes to the village board without a recommendation.
Right. Clear as mud, right?
Well, I'm glad it's not just me.
Thank you.
All right, new business item B, review of impact fee study, RFP. Yes, Administrator Krecklow.
In the packet, you have a draft RFP for an impact fee study for the village. We currently have 5 impact fees in place. One for facilities for pumping and storing water, one for parks, playgrounds, and land for athletic facilities, one for fire protection facilities, an impact fee for law enforcement facilities, and an impact fee for library facilities. Our impact fee studies, each impact fee that's charged by statute needs to have a study that's associated with it that shows exactly what the impact fees are collected for, how the impact fees are calculated, and how they're administered. Our impact fee studies are out of date. All of them at least 10 years old, some of them dating back into the 1990s. The draft that I have here goes through the scope, and in the interest of time, I won't go through that in detail, but I did want to present it to the committee here this evening if there was any feedback on it, or any direction that you'd like to make sure that we consider when we go through the RFP process.
So this is a requirement by the state what's the period that you're supposed to have these impact fee studies?
The statute doesn't specify a period, but it does, it has to be up to date. So part of it depends on what exactly you're collecting the impact fees for and when that purpose becomes out of date.
Okay,
So what we'll do with these is.
it's been 10 years, you said?
The latest one was 10 years ago.
Jeez. Yeah.
So there,
Seems
Time
like
flies.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, seems
Yeah.
like that's a while.
yeah.
Actually, what department is in charge of the impact fees?
Well, it's spread out. Responsibility for administration of the impact fees is kind of spread out among various departments. So, for example, under parks, playgrounds, and land for athletic facilities,
Recreation.
the Parks Department is responsible for their capital planning, for looking at what their facilities are. But when it comes to actually calculating what the fees are, that's something that community development does when the permit application is taken in. So it crosses departmental lines, and there's multiple departments that are involved in different aspects of it.
Anything else?
Nope. I don't-
Trustee Kaminsky.
Yeah.
I think this looks extremely thorough, and I'm really a good RFP. It says no action is necessary though, but isn't this one of the things we're going to fund with ARPA funding?
Yeah.
So wouldn't you want us to approve the ARPA funding for this?
What I would suggest is when I come back with a contract.
Okay.
That then you would take action and approve the ARPA funding. I will say, I tried to get some information on what these types of studies have been costing, and they're kind of all over the board. So I put in the memo that I attached that my best estimate is $50,000 to $100,000. But I really won't know until we get these proposals
Okay.
back.
I really think it's good.
Yeah. Just a question. Impact fees are charged by most municipalities, correct?
I would say many, I don't know if it's most or not, many municipalities charge
Yeah.
impact fees.
Okay. So do we have any information? Who are you sending these to? I mean, the RFP.
There's a variety of firms that work on this. And I've talked to a few of them. I don't think we're the only municipality that's kind of in the situation we're in. I think there was in the 90s when there was kind of a wave of communities that started charging impact fees, and I don't know how much attention folks paid to them after they implemented them. But to give you some examples, I'll send copies of this RFP to Baker Tilly, to Ehlers. I'll probably send it to CLA as another accounting firm, send it to Rupert Milkie. I don't know if Grafe specifically does this, but I might send it to Grafe, or they might be able to forward it to some others. Foth, who does some engineering work for us, might have some interest in it. So, I'll try to put a pretty wide net out there, and we'll also put it out on the village website and social media to see if we can, how much interest we can get.
All right, thanks, Steve. We'll,
When will you send it out?
I'm gonna plan to get it out this week.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
thank you. With that, we'll move on to reports, accounts payable. Any questions on the check runs?
Yeah, just, we're meeting once a month, right? So we're getting, not accounts payable, but we're getting those check runs. Is that
That's
basically?
accounts payable.
Yeah, so that's So are we supposed to get those weekly? What are we doing here?
We try to send them out every Friday. Typically, we cut checks on Friday, so we
Okay.
typically send them out
Yeah.
on Friday. Occasionally, we'll cut checks the following Monday. So it really just depends on when we cut the checks. We try to send them out weekly.
Okay. Okay. Try to send them out weekly.
We do get them in our email, right?
I didn't get one last week. I don't know.
We didn't send out, I emailed you back this afternoon. We didn't send out last week's yet, mostly because we did it late last week, and then our accounts payable clerk was out today. So you
Okay.
can expect to see it tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, we'll move on, budget to actual. Any questions on that?
I'll send my questions. Budget to actual. Oh, yes, here's the biggest question. The date on the budget to actual is 5/16. That was Friday, correct?
That was Thursday.
Thursday. Can we get it on Monday instead? The Monday
As
before?
in today.
No. How about the Monday before the meeting? We have 329 pages to go through, and I would like to go through it a little
You
bit
can,
better.
But it wouldn't include that week then.
But
I mean, sure.
aren't we kind of like always off a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I understand why you're doing it. You're getting the most current one before the published agenda. So,
Correct.
I
tried to
if we
stay
understand.
close
can,
to
we
the-
can back that off. I guess that's a discussion we can have, but I think that's why.
We could, at least we could get closer to the end of the month, or what we're supposed to review, 1 week difference rather than a whole month's difference, and trying to absorb it over a weekend. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
Sure, I can send it, whenever the committee would like.
We can talk about that at a future meeting. We'll have to make that change if it's needed. All right, with that, we'll move on to payroll. Anything there? I don't think so. And here's the big one, contracts. This is our first contract report, and it's a biggie. And there are a lot of things in there, some things that I really didn't expect to see on a contract report.
Correct. So these are all the contracts that have been put into Munis since we went live in October of 2023, starting with, the oldest contract at the top, with the latest entered contract at the bottom. There's several columns, the contract number, vendor, description of the contract. In the approved date column, those are the dates that the contract is either approved by the committee or by the village board. Contracts that don't have an approved date are typically just approved by the department head or the village administrator. So there's no approved date by committee or board for those dates.
Got it. It's quite a bit bigger than our
But-
old contract.
Yeah. But the
These are all were approved.
These are all approved contracts,
Right.
correct?
What about when have to be approved? I mean, so we don't miss anything.
Like, are you referring to like a renewal?
Yeah. Do we need to see that? Because we had problems with that in the past.
Oh, I believe it
Yeah.
would work, and I don't believe there's any in here.
Yeah.
Is we would have a start and an end date essentially.
Okay.
In the system, we're allowed to put, a beginning date, a renewal
You'd
date.
catch that, though. You'd know that.
Correct.
The contract's coming up
Yeah,
June
sure.
12th or June 20th, boom, and you'd say, okay,
Correct. We'll have,
we won't miss it.
we'll have a column that has,
Yeah.
renewal date, so it has to
Mhm.
be renewed
Perfect,
by
perfect, okay.
December 31st.
Yep, that's excellent.
Most of
you
these
add-
contracts are just one-year contracts in here for specific projects. The only long-term contract, I believe, that's in here is for the body cameras, and those are 5-year contracts, so that renewal wouldn't come for several years.
What about capital data? Is that only annual?
That contract was approved a couple of years ago. There's not a formal contract in place. It's more of a as needed. They charge us, and Eric can probably speak better than I can, charge us for work as they're called in.
Yeah, the contract is basically what was approved by council for the line item. So for IT, for their management services, I just took, whatever was requested for their services. That's what I put in for the contract. So, because there's vary. They have a set fee and they have a variable fee for their services.
All right. Thank you. So with that, we will adjourn. Our next meeting will be, sorry, I shouldn't adjourn before I tell our next meeting. Next meeting will be the 17th on Monday, the 17th at probably at 5:30.
Okay.
And with that, we will adjourn
Thank you.
at 7:05.